Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 1, the Sociological Imagination, an Introduction.
Chapter 1, the Sociological Imagination, an Introduction. Paradox. A successful sociologist makes the familiar strange. Sociology is the study of human society and its social structures and dynamics. Or, as C. Wright Mills famously put it, sociology lies at the intersection of history and biography. Sociological thinking is about making the familiar strange. It requires a different way of seeing things, challenging conventional wisdom, and thinking critically about the social world around you. Its object of focus, in this regard, is what seems natural but in fact isn't. For example, we tend to think of a quote-unquote normal family as made up of a working dad, a mom, and kids. However, this quote traditional family was dominant only for a couple decades after World War II. Throughout history, families have come in all shapes and sizes. For instance, among the Na people in southern China, children are raised by their uncles rather than their fathers. Or take school. Why go to college? To educate yourself? Well, if that's the case, why not just go to your local library and read those same books for free? Or maybe you are in college to land a better job. People with college degrees tend to earn more money, are happier, and divorce less, right? But what about college dropouts like Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates, who, convinced of their ability, were able to achieve success in their own way? Just because college graduates tend to earn more doesn't mean that college caused that to be the case. It could be that people who go to college also tend to be advantaged in other ways, and that college doesn't really make a difference at all. What about race? Feels pretty natural, right? But is race real? Of course, race is a real social distinction, and people around the world make distinctions between us and them on the basis of race. In Central Africa, a jagged racial line was drawn between the Hutus and the Tutsis. Anyone with more than 10 cows or a long nose was considered Tutsi. Imagine that, race based on cows or noses. Even though genetic evidence shows the Hutus and Tutsis originated from the same Bantu peoples, this has been a very sad story, resulting in genocide of about 100,000 Hutus in Burundi in 1972 and 800,000 mostly Tutsi Rwandans in 1994. The bottom line is that things may not always be as they appear once you put on your sociological lenses. Just be sure not to trip while you're wearing them.
So, what is sociology? Sociology is the study of human society. In the mid-20th century, sociologist C. Wright Mills coined the term sociological imagination and argued that one needs to use it to think critically about the social world. The sociological imagination is the ability to connect one's personal experiences to society at large and greater historical forces. Using our sociological imagination allows us to make the familiar strange, or to question habits or customs that seem natural to us. What are the true costs and returns of college? This is debatable, as individuals who finish college might earn more, not because they obtained a degree, but because people who stay on are more likely to correspond to characteristics that predispose them to earn higher salaries. So, if going to college is really about getting a quote-unquote piece of paper, then why not print out a fake diploma? This interview is amazing because it discusses the role that class plays in acceptance. Make sure that you click the link and watch the video. Part of this class is going to be about critically thinking and evaluating about the world around you. So, why are you in college? Did the people around you, including your friends and family, expect you to go to college? Do you think this is the same for everyone? I'd love for you to explore that as an extra credit question in the comments section below. So, what is a social institution? A social institution is a group of social positions connected by social relations that perform a social role. Social institutions, such as the legal system, the labor market, or language itself, has a great influence on our behavior and are constantly changing. The ordinary interactions and meanings we ascribe to social institutions shape and change them. College is considered a social institution in that it acts as a gatekeeper to quote unquote legitimate forms of education by deciding who can attend through the application process. Once you apply, you then have to pay for college. So if you can pay for it, then you are afforded the ability to go to school. College is a social institution in that it segregates great swaths of the population by age. Most college students out of four-year school are right out of high school, so 18 to 24 range, whereas community college has a wider range of students with many returning adults and non-traditional students. College is a social institution in that it's a proprietary brand that is marketed on items like sweatshirts and through televised sporting events. Finally, college is a social institution in that it has an informal set of stories told within a social network of students, faculties, administrators, alumni, and so on. Part of the social institutions are social identities. A social identity is how individuals define themselves in relationship to groups that they are a part of or in relationship to groups they choose not to be a part of. We all contribute to one another's social identity, which can also be thought of as a grand narrative constructed of many individual stories. Let's take a brief history of sociology. The ability to develop a quote-unquote sociological lens like technology needed a specific set of circumstances to bloom. The French philosopher Auguste Comte, founder of what is called social physics or positivism, felt that we could better understand society by determining the logic or scientific laws governing human behavior. Harriet Martineau, the first to translate Comte's written works into English, was one of the earliest feminist social scientists and wrote on educational issues, among other things. Historical materialism, a theory developed by Karl Marx, one of the, quote, classical sociologists, along with Weber and Durkheim, identifies class conflict as the primary cause of social change. Max Weber felt that culture and politics, as well as economics, were important influences on society, and his emphasis on subjectivity became a foundation of interpretive sociology. Emile Durkheim, who is considered the founding practitioner of positivist sociology, developed the theory that the division of labor in a given society helps to determine how social cohesion is maintained or not maintained in that society. Durkheim also found that the concept of anonymity, a sense of despair resulting from the chaos of everyday life. Georges Simmel established what is today referred to as formal sociology, or a sociology of pure numbers, leading to the development of urban sociology and cultural sociology, and the study of groups. The Chicago School focused on empirical research with the belief that people's behaviors and personalities are shaped by their social and physical environment to become the, quote, social self, a concept termed social ecology. Charles Cooley and George Herbert Mead made prominent contributions to these types of social selves. Double consciousness, a concept developed by W.E.B. Du Bois, refers to individuals' constant awareness of how others perceive them and how those perceptions alter their own behavior. Jane Addams was one of the pioneers of applied sociology, which combined the latent misogyny of the time, relegating her to a social worker as opposed to an academic. Along with Durkheim, Talcott Parsons was heavily responsible for championing functionalism, the strand of sociology that believes that the social processes and institutions only exist to serve some important function to keep society running. Some modern sociological theories include functionalism, conflict theory, feminist theory, symbolic interactionism, postmodernism, and mid-range theory, which we're going to be talking about shortly. This gentleman in the back standing up, that is W.E.B. Du Bois. So as mentioned, there are several modern sociological theories that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be focusing on 3 of them in this class. That is functionalism, conflict theory, and symbolic interactionism. But feminist theory, postmodernism, and mid-range theory are all part of these modern sociological theories and are sprinkled in throughout our class. Functionalism is a theory that various social institutions and processes in society exist to serve some important or necessary function to keep society running. Conflict theory is the idea that conflict between competing interests is the basic animating force of social change and society in general. Feminist theory is a catch-all term for many theories with an emphasis on women's experiences and a belief that sociology and society in general subordinate women. Symbolic interactionism is a micro-level theory in which shared meanings, orientations, and assumptions form the basic motivations behind people's actions. Postmodernism is a condition characterized by questioning of the notion of progress in history, the replacement of narrative within pastiche, and multiple, perhaps even conflicting identities resulting from disjointed affiliations. Finally, we have mid-range theory. This is a theory that attempts to predict how certain social institutions tend to function. I would love for you to compare functionalism and conflict theory. How would the 2 differ in their understanding of inequality? I would love for you to think about that. Let's look at sociology and its cousins. Sociology focuses on making comparisons across cases to find patterns and create hypotheses about how societies work now or in the past. Sociology looks at how individuals interact with one another, as well as how groups, both small and large, interact with one another. There are some distinctions, though, with its cousins. For example, history and anthropology tend to focus more on particular circumstances, though in cultural anthropology in particular, there can be a lot of overlap with sociology. Psychology and biology examine things on more of a micro level than sociology does, and economics is an entirely quantitative discipline. Political science focuses on one aspect of social relations, and that is power. These distinctions are important, but it's also important to keep in mind that a lot of overlap exists between the work done in particular academic disciplines. Julia Adams in this video discusses the difference between historians and sociologists. I encourage you to take a few minutes to watch the interview. Within sociology, there are several divisions. We're going to be focusing on microsociology and macrosociology in our class. Microsociology understands local interactional contexts, focusing on face-to-face encounters and gathering data through participant observations and in-depth interviews. Micro means small. So they're looking at a small group in numbers in studying sociology or an individual. Macro sociology looks at social dynamics across whole societies or large parts of them, and often relies on statistical analysis to do so. Macro meaning larger. So whereas microsociology looks at an individual or a small group of people, macrosociology looks at a larger group of people. Something to think about as well is that interpretive sociology focuses on the meanings people attach to social phenomena, prioritizing specific situations over a search for social facts that transcend time and place. In positivist sociology, also called the, quote, normal science model of sociology, they attempt to reveal the social facts that affect social life by developing and testing hypotheses that are based on theories about how the social world works, which leads us into understanding more about how people interact in a society based on the individuals within that society, or looking at it from a micro focus, as well as looking at individuals in a collective, in a larger group, which is a macro focus. I hope that this was helpful for you. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon.